Hello everyone, I'll show you how to add different kinds of pixel art outlines to your sprites using Godot shaders. The core concept is checking the neighboring pixels of all the blank pixels and then filling those in if they are close to a filled-in pixel. First, select your sprite and add a new shader material in the new shader. We will now define a few uniforms to control the shader without having to adjust the code each time. Add a vector forward for the color and an int to indicate how many pixels we are checking in each direction. Next, add a new function that will return true if our target pixel has a neighbor, return false if there are no neighboring pixels. In the fragment function, we add a simple if condition that checks all our necessary conditions. First, if the pixel is blank, and then we add our justify function. This concludes our initial setup. Now let's go adjust our function so it actually does what it says. For that, we need to enter a few parameters to identify which pixel we are checking for and what the other pixels look like. The UV is the position of our pixel. The texture pixel size tells us the relative size of a pixel in our texture compared to the pixel on screen. Lastly, we also need to add the texture of our sprite to check for neighboring pixels. We're going to check all the neighboring pixels in a grid method, going step by step. For that, we layered a grid that extends in both directions by the size of how many pixels we want to check. By doing this both for x and y, we cover all possible options. To convert our x and y value, which in this case went from -1 to 1, to coordinates in our sprite texture, we first convert them to a vector 2. Then we take our position in the UV and add this offset vector to it, multiplied by the relative pixel size for our texture. Then we check the exact pixel in our texture using the built-in texture function and see if this neighbor we are checking is blank or not. If we find a match, we immediately return out of the function to skip all the following unnecessary checks. If we not, we continue until we checked all neighbors. If by then we didn't find a non-blank pixel, we exit all the loops and return false. By now your sprite should look like this with a slightly thicker outline. Next, let's add some optimization and a new parameter to control the outline more precisely. We now won't check all the pixels in the defined grid, but only the direct neighbors. To that, we first add a new uniform that caps how far from the center we will check. In this 303 grid, we simply won't check the corners and only go for all the 4 sides. To do that, we add the absolute value of x and y and compare it to our cap. If it is above the cap, we continue to the next pixel. This works since all the corners both have x and y as an absolute value of 1, which adds to 2. Here we can also add a small bit of optimization and skip the 0, 0 pixel, since that is the original pixel we are checking and we know it's always blank. Now all the code we need has been written. Let's change some shader parameters and see what it does. We can adjust the color of the outline to be any color we want. Even adjusting the alpha value and going for transparency is possible. By increasing pixels to check, we increase the grid size. Each step is adding the grid 1 pixel in all 4 directions. However, you might see nothing changes. This is because we also need to increase the center distance cap to actually utilize the bigger grid. Thanks for watching.